So,
Yeah, true.
oh,
All right, we're live.
I'm going to run away now.
And
I'll be in the back.
if you can tell whether
I'll let you know.
Courtney is on or not. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, say, I'll do a greeting. And Courtney, if you're listening, you can do a greeting with the camera on and then get rid of it. So if you're self-conscious about being on the camera,
Looks like she might be here. So,
yeah, okay, good. Thank you, Michael. So if you're self-conscious about being on the camera, you can just welcome the group, let everybody get situated, and then just to X yourself out of it. And I have to figure out how to do that. I'll remove from stage. Okay. All right. So it's 12 o'clock, and this is the weekly Camera Plan 101 for self-directed investing, where we give you the basics of using a self-directed IRA to invest and build wealth and to either reduce or eliminate taxes. So we typically give everyone a chance to settle down and sit down. And we'll get underway shortly. While we're kind of getting situated, we'll do our disclaimer that the lawyers all have to be involved. And so Camera Plan doesn't provide investment advice. We can't endorse or recommend or promote any product at all. Everything you hear from me today is provided for educational purposes only. And we always encourage everyone before they do anything in self-directed investing or alternative asset investing to consult your tax prep person, your CPA, your lawyer if necessary, before you do any of this type of investing. And self-direction means exactly what it implies, that you're going to do all the work. So I'm going to take myself off the screen here. I think I do it by removing from the stage. We'll get underway.
No, because then you would be muting yourself. If we're going to take you off the screen, I handle that.
All right.
And now you can talk and they'll still hear you.
Great. All right. Then since I'm back, let me just move the slides here. First, a little bit about us. We are 21 years old. We're headquartered just north of Philadelphia in Ambler, Pennsylvania. It's a commuting distance, roughly, if you're familiar with Pennsylvania. It's just north of the PA Turnpike, which goes from the eastern side of the state to the western side of the state. We have about 8,500 to 9,000 clients all over the country. We have more than $1 billion, with a B, assets under management. And we've got people in every state. We have a reputation for high customer service. We are big enough to get anything done in the area of alternative investing, but small enough to answer the phone. So we pride ourselves on that. If you're calling in and you're doing business with us, you're going to be doing business with myself or Courtney or Matt or Owen, and you'll get to know them and they'll take good care of you. I spend most of my time dealing with private equity and private lending, venture capital, and people who raise money. Organizations like this who need to have the road smooth for them, so to speak, between them and their clients, so that this process of opening self-directed accounts and investing through them is smooth. We're big on education. That's why I'm here doing this today. We also have podcasts, and we have a huge library of past webinars and podcasts on our website. That's www.camaplan.com, and we'd like to offer you the chance to visit it and educate yourselves. The company was founded by a third-generation real estate investing family, Carl Fisher and Maggie Polisano, hence the Cama name, Carl and Maggie. Carl is actually a rocket scientist by trade. He was with the NASA Space Shuttle program and some of the space and defense contractors. So he's an engineer by training and looks at things in that way, loves examining investments, and actually reads the tax code. Maggie has a Fortune 100 background in IT, where she built platforms and systems that are used to manage the client information that we have here. They are hands-on managers. That means that they are involved in the day-to-day operation. They didn't start the company 20 years ago and went off and sitting on a beach somewhere. They're involved day-to-day. What do we do? Well, you have to have a third party when you have an IRA or a 401k. Now, many of you might be familiar with having these accounts at Schwab or Fidelity or Vanguard, and we're no different. We're a neutral third party. Again, we don't sell anything, but we'll keep you clean with regard to IRS rules and regs, dealing with 401ks and IRAs. We're good at that. We keep all records of transactions. We're predominantly a ledger. We record all the activity that takes place within your self-directed IRA, your 401k. We also work with your other professionals. What you do over here is part of a bigger financial picture for most of you, and we want to make sure that fits in. So it's not unusual for us to get on the phone with tax prep specialists and CPAs and advisors and to give them a clear understanding of what you're trying to do over in this area. So enough about us. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to look at the different kinds of self-directed IRAs and 401ks and what they're used for. We're going to look at the types of investments that you can make in them. There's some rules. This being the IRS, there's always rules. So what you're allowed to invest in and not allowed to invest in, we're going to cover that. And we're actually going to look at the difference in investment between a Roth IRA and a non-IRA investment. So we're going to compare them side by side, the identical investment inside of a Roth IRA and using non-IRA money. Then after we've walked you through all of that and given you some do's and don'ts, we're going to show you how the process works, how quickly you can get started doing this. And then we have a bunch of resources towards the end of this that we'll share with you. So let's get started. A lot of talk about self-direction. I mean, Schwab and Fidelity and Vanguard, to the extent that you have an account there, and you can buy stocks and bonds and mutual funds anywhere in the world. That is a form of self-direction, but it's confined to listed securities. That's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. And it's a nice place. I have a Vanguard account and I use it. And I like the idea of being able to trade shares of stock on the Hang Seng Exchange in Hong Kong. And I like the idea of being able to place a sell order, before I go to bed at night, and it goes and it out clears. We're in a different world over here. The custodians who handle self-directed IRAs and 401ks deal with all of the other assets. And we're going to go through those in a minute because we handle everything else. And that's everything from apartment buildings to shares in new ventures to intellectual properties and oil and gas and mineral rights. Use your imagination. I'll give you a list of the things you can't do in a little bit too. And the reason why you would want to do this is to utilize what you know and to be close to your investments. We get a lot of people who come to self-direction from accounting and finance. They've been mortgage brokers, they're real estate agents. They got involved in construction. Perhaps they did a fix and flip with an investor who was doing one, and they figured it out for themselves and decided, hey, why don't I keep the profit associated with this and I'll get into it. So everyone comes to this with a set of skills and some experiences that they can put to work here. We get a lot of people who retire. They've been in an industry for 30 or 40 years, and now they're free to take their retirement account and put it to work in an industry that they know really well. They can fund startups. They can buy intellectual property, new technologies. So we like to think of it as being able to utilize what you know and also being close to the investments that you make. I can't pick up the phone and talk to the president of NVIDIA, but I can pick up the phone and talk to the guy doing the fix and flip that I've invested in, or the fund that deals in raw land preparation. So I have more access to these folks, and they're more responsive to me as an investor. There are different types of accounts for different purposes, and they fall into two broad categories. Let's talk about the ones on the left. Those are tax deferred. So what happens there is the government gives you a little attaboy or an attagirl to throw some money in there every year. You get a tax deduction, and it's a great way to stash away a little bit of money and get rewarded for it. And you get encouragement that way. And so many of you are familiar with the traditional IRA. You may have had one, or you may have one now. There are various versions of the traditional IRA, like the spousal or inherited, which happens when someone who owns the traditional IRA passes away. And the four at the bottom here are all used for companies or business operations. So you can have a self-employed pension, the SEP IRA, a simple IRA, and these are plans that you can set up to put away a considerable amount of money and also take care of your employees if you've got a small enterprise. Then there's the defined benefit plan, which we all knew back in the day as a pension. They still exist, and you can set those up. And then the defined contribution plan, which is known as the 401k. And a lot of you will have some experience with this. Now, the key difference here is because you are incentivized to put that money away. Look at it as the government subsidizing your retirement. So they've given you a break, and they're putting money you're putting money into the account. And so think of it as the government buying you or subsidizing your seeds for your crop. You're going to plant the seeds. You're going to water it or pray for water. You're going to deal with blight. You're going to harvest it. You're going to take it to market and sell it. And the government's going to want a share of it. So you're going to pay taxes at the rate that you pay tax in the year that you take a distribution on what you make there. So you'll save throughout your working life. And at 59 and a half, you can begin taking money out of these accounts, and you will be taxed at the same rate that you're taxed in the year in which you take that distribution. There's also one other hitch, is that because the government does get a share of what you built, that you'll be required to take minimum distributions at age 73. And that amount is based on how much you have in your IRA accounts and the actuarial table, which the IRS updates from time to time. But you will be required to move that money out, and that will be taxed at the same rate that you pay income tax in the year in which you take that distribution. Now, one of the quirks in the 2022 Secure Act that was done during COVID is they now allow you to put money into your IRAs, even though you've entered the required minimum distribution period, which begins at age 73. So you can, as long as you're working and you have earned income, you can continue to contribute to it. So on the one hand, you're going to be required to take money out. On the other hand, if you're still working and have earned income, you can put money in. Now, the other side's a bit different. It's the tax-free. Here, you don't get any incentive at all. There's no tax breaks. This is all after-tax money. There's the Roth IRA, health savings accounts, which is for high-deductible health plan people, the educational savings account, which allows you to save for your child's education. It doesn't have to be college. And then there's a Roth-like 401k that you can put on top of a business. Again, the key thing here is you're not incentivized to put anything in here. There are some limits, and there are some income bracket limits as to how much you can put into these. But we have families who've used all of these accounts, the educational savings, their health savings, and their Roth, to invest jointly in various investments. Now, again, here, there's no incentive to put this away, so you get to keep it all. So at 59 and a half, because there's no taxes on distribution, you could empty the whole account out and go buy an island or something. And it's a really beautiful vehicle for this. Also, there's no required minimum distribution. So when you hit 73, you're not going to be forced to take anything out. You can just leave it there. You can leave it there for your heirs if you want. So again, no taxes on distributions, no required minimum distributions. Perhaps the best example of somebody who's used the Roth is Peter Thiel. He put his shares of PayPal in when it was formed, and he has somewhere north of $1 billion sitting in a Roth IRA that will never be taxed. So pretty sweet. Things you can invest in. Again, the list of things you can't invest in is pretty short. So we're a real estate heavy shop here. Probably 65% of the people in our client base invest directly in real estate, and that can come in any form. So, you've got all the rental properties here, the top four: single family and multifamily, apartment, condominium, and commercial. And then you've got people who invest in raw land. They bank the raw land. Also, you're not limited to the U.S. We have people investing in Colombian coffee plantations and vacation properties in Costa Rica. And so you see all sorts of alternative versions of investing for storage facilities, RV and mobile home parks. I saw a very interesting presentation on marinas, so you can invest in those, and also glamping, the glamorous camping trend. Next to that are the more passive forms of real estate investment. If you don't want to hold the property directly and be responsible for all that's associated with that, you can invest in mortgages. You can lend money to people who are doing real estate deals. I like this area. I don't have the competence to own real estate directly and deal with it, and so I lend to fix and flippers. I get involved in funds that do real estate deals. That can come in any form, by the way. You can lend money that is convertible notes, convertible to equity. I do some unsecured lending to a company that does business with me. And because they do business with me, obviously they want to pay me back, so they keep the business. So it's a nice symbiotic relationship. That particular company needs front end money to acquire the raw materials it needs to create its product and sell it. And so I help fuel the front end purchases of the raw materials, so to speak, and I get a piece of the profit. So you can do that. It comes in all forms of corporate structure, LLCs and limited partnerships. The only thing not allowed is an S corp. So we see all of that, and we're seeing more activity nowadays with the investment clubs than ever before. That is getting together with people that that have similar objectives, to examine investments together and to evaluate them, vet them, and commit. And sometimes when you do that as a group, you get better deals. You'll get an extra point or two, extra percentage of interest. So that's something to look into. And we like investment clubs. We like the Real Estate Investment Association chapters and any of the investment clubs, because there you're operating as a herd. You're not all by yourself trying to figure it all out. Some of the stuff is complicated, and it's nice to have more experienced investors along with you. There are all sorts of funds. I do a lot of this, the Regulation D and A funds. This is where you own a limited partnership share of a venture. It might be in a apartment complex outside of Atlanta, or it might be a series of Airbnb properties located throughout the South. They come in every stripe. You can also invest in precious metals. Now, despite what you hear on TV, you can't hide it. You can take it home and hide it under your bed or put it in your toilet tank. It does have to go into a depository. But the cool thing there is you can own it directly. These are owned by you. You find your broker, find your metals you want to buy, and we'll handle all of the movement associated with getting those coins through your broker dealer to the depository and into your account. So again, we've kind of gone over this. It's basically everything here. The first four are rental properties. Then there's all sorts of other versions of investment in real estate. And keep in mind, again, storage facilities, RV and mobile home parks, all of that kind of stuff is available. Again, it comes in every form, in every structure. And this being the IRS, this is what you can't do. Okay, this all boils down to stuff that's highly speculative in terms of valuation. And, when it comes time to you take money out of your account when you hit 73, if these are, if you have investments in a traditional IRA, the valuation of the assets will become very important, because that'll be the basis upon which you, must take the distribution. So these are prohibited. So that's, artwork, Persian rugs, firearms, stamps and coins. That's the numismatic stuff, the Roman coin, the Confederate paper currency, all of that kind of stuff you can't do. No booze. So if you've got a bottle of Chateau Petrus, 61, you'll just have to drink it. All that stuff you can't do. There is an exception in that anything minted by a sovereign entity, that means that you can put Chinese pandas, South African Krugerrands, Canadian maple leafs, and of course, American eagles in your portfolio. And those would be held again in a depository. So not too many things you can't invest in. There are some rules regarding who you can invest in. And I want to make a differentiation between investing in and investing with. Let's talk about investing in. For whatever reasons, the folks that cook this up do not allow you to invest in your linear family, ascending or descending. And so your parents can't invest in you or a company you own. You can't invest in your kids' business operations or your grandchildren's, and similarly for their spouses. My wife cannot invest in my business. I cannot invest in hers. And so it goes. Everyone in the green areas there, you can invest in. I'll give you two examples. My brother just retired. He was a contractor, occasionally needed a piece of capital equipment. And, as long as I lent him the money at a market rate, I did him a favor, and he did me a favor. So I was able to make a little money. And same for his kids. His two boys have their own businesses. They don't need my money anymore. But back in the day, I lent him some money for, in one case, a plasma welder. And he didn't have the financial statements 2 years worth at the time that the lending organizations required. And so I lent it to him at a fair rate. And I got to help him out, help him jumpstart his business. And he got to make a little money for his uncle. Now, the difference that I mentioned before is important here, because you can invest alongside of or with any of these people. So in the case of my wife and myself, we might find a mortgage note, and I have 50% of the money to buy it, and she has the other 50%. We can invest together. And it's the same with anybody on this chart. So just keep that in mind. And if you have any questions about, hey, can I do this or can I do that? Don't hesitate to call us. We love playing with this stuff. And we've got some resources here, some people that have been doing this for a long, long time, and we'll know if there's a way to get something done, how to do it. So please don't hesitate to call us about that. There is one other area of rules, and that is what it boils down to is no self-dealing. So you can't be on both sides of a transaction. A lot of times we get people say, I want to sell my house into my IRA. You can't do that. The two most basic examples, and we've seen this over and over again, is somebody whose child is going off to college, and we want to buy a condo, and we'll rent out 3 bedrooms to the classmates, and then our son or daughter will get to stay there for free. Unfortunately, you can't do that. You can't be on both ends of that transaction, in the sense that you are benefiting by not having to pay rent for your child at college. The other thing is a vacation property. We get a lot of people who say, hey, I want to buy a vacation property with my IRA, rent it out all year, and then 2 weeks out of the year, I'm going to pack up the family and go down there. Well, you can't do that either. So there's no self-dealing. These are intended as passive investments. Question always comes up after you tell them you can't do it is, well, how they're going to find out. Well, the one-word answer for that is divorce. The other word answer for that is a neighbor who knows you're doing it and gets into a dispute with you. So we like to say, just stay away from anything that's questionable. Get advice from your CPA. We'll steer you clear on the IRS rules and regs, but you definitely want to run everything by your tax prep specialist and your CPA. If you go to ancient Egypt and you look at the hieroglyphs, and they have these carvings of people holding up small animals and bundles of wheat, and there's a guy with a cat o' nine tails there. Well, it's the tax guy, and they've seen it all. It's the first or second oldest profession in the world. So, don't be too clever by half and try and get around it. All right, enough of the rules and regs. So why would you want to do this? Really, it's the money. So let's look at what happens as you move up the food chain. You're making $100,000, but I'm a 1099 guy. My wife is a W-2 person. A lot of stuff comes out of that. You can see out of the $100,000, maybe you're keeping 60. In some states, you're keeping less than that because you're paying Social Security, Medicare, all of that. The local taxes take a bite out of you. In some states, the state takes a huge bite. Places like California. But as you move up into the more passive forms of income, things change to your advantage. So if you've got oil and gas and mineral rights, or you've got interest in a song catalog, and that's paying you some income, you're not paying all of these other taxes that you see in the W-2 1099 box. So you get to keep more of it. But when you get into the self-directed or any IRA with any investment, really, you get to keep it all. Now, the tax-deferred traditional, you will pay taxes as you distribute it out of that account at the rate that you pay tax in the year that you take the distribution. So that's going to happen. But the tax-free Roth, you get to keep it all. Now, just because you have to pay taxes on the tax deferred stuff doesn't mean you're not ahead of the game. So, better to do that than not do it at all. We did this a while back. We started with 50 grand, and I forget what we said the return, the ROI was going to be every year, but we played it out over 40 years. And you can see with the tax man nibbling at your earnings every year in the blue box, you're going to end up with a lot less than you are inside of a tax deferred or tax free vehicle. The tax deferred gets you a little bit better off, again, because you're going to have to pay taxes. But look at the tax free vehicle. You're essentially 3 times wealthier than if you did those investments outside of an IRA, a Roth IRA. Let's look at it another way. Let's take a real estate deal. 2 buildings built side by side the same year, identical in every way and maintained the same way, bought by 2 different people, one buying it, putting it inside of a Roth, the other one with non-IRA money. So each building was purchased for $1 million, and each generates $100,000 in rent every year. Now, the guy on the right is going to get a depreciation break, and we have some assumptions based upon decades of experience with our principals, but we always welcome input on this because we want it to be a fair comparison. So you're going to take depreciation, you're going to get a depreciation allowance, which is going to lower your taxable income. One thing we haven't mentioned here, because it's going to be different in almost every case, is that certain expenses will also be deducted from your revenue before you arrive at your taxable income. But the point is that you get to keep all of the revenue if it's in the IRA. So year after year after year, you're extending your lead over the person who's doing it outside of the IRA in terms of the amount of money that you're accumulating. So one of the great things about this is, even though you would pay taxes in a traditional, is that you're accumulating it without it being touched or interfered. And so compounding gets to work, and interest accumulation and growth occurs without any interference for a long period of time, decades in the case of someone who starts younger. All right, so year after year after year, this goes out. So say you take it out 10 years, the net income to the owner in the IRA is going to be $1 million. The other person is going to have $790,000. But the real magic happens when you sell it, because the person outside of the IRA is going to face depreciation recapture. And again, the formulas are down here. Please, read through them and see if they make sense to you. They're going to pay a capital gains tax, and the net proceeds are going to be far lower than the person who has the building in the IRA. So you can see this is a pretty big advantage. That's a nice sum of money. It looks like maybe it'll put 2 kids through college. I don't know. So that's why you would abide by the rules, and that's why you would, you would go through the trouble really of just setting it out. But it's not trouble at all, because here's how easy it is. Well, one other point I'll make about this is operating real estate inside of an IRA is a little different. Okay, talked about not being able to use it for any purposes that are personal, and that's true. A lot of folks get into this thing wanting to build a portfolio of rental properties. And so they start out with a single property, and they're doing all the work, and they're cleaning the toilets and fixing them and doing everything else. And they start acquiring, more properties, but they have a hands-on mentality. And so they're playing with their properties and maintaining them. In the IRA, you can't do that. The property has to be managed at an arm's length. The property operates like a business inside of your IRA. So your IRA will buy the property. Your IRA will pay taxes, tradespeople. It'll pay a mortgage if there's a mortgage on the property. IRAs can take mortgages, and all the rent money will flow back into the IRA. Now, this sometimes is hard for experienced landlords to get used to, but if you're building a portfolio of doors, eventually you're going to have a cadre of people like this who can do the plumbing and the electrical work and the carpentry and anything else that you might need. And so you'll already be able to have that network, and you want to strive to build that network so that you're not doing the work yourself. So you're going to do that anyway once you get up past the number of doors. You're going to have to do it because you can't do it all yourself. And besides, you want to make a business out of this. You really want to make an investment plan and achieve a certain volume of doors. Carl Fisher, the founder, tells a story about he was waiting to bid on a property he knew was going to come up for sale, but he missed his opportunity because he was busy painting one of his other rental properties. And so the idea here is that you can pick the color of the paint, but you can't paint the house. You can't touch it. But that'll work to your benefit as you build up your investment portfolio, and you'll work through others to do it. Anyway, what I said earlier about how easy it is, there are rules and regulations. This chart here could actually be 3 buttons, and there is a version of it around here where it's just 3 buttons. Essentially, it's you're opening your account, you're going to fund your account, which means you're going to transfer money from a similar IRA or Roth IRA, or you're going to roll over money from an old 401k or a retirement plan of some kind, and then you're going to make your investment. So in the case of an existing IRA that you have, you can open your account and have us request the transfer, and it's all done in about 20 minutes. It's all online. It's all prompted. It's a guided process. It's very easy to do. So if you have an existing IRA somewhere and you want to do self-direction, you'll open your account and you'll give us the information we need to request the transfer from the other custodian in about 20 minutes. If you're going to do a rollover from a 401k or teacher savings plan or 403b, we can help you with that. We'll give you the instructions you need that you'll take over to your custodian. And they usually have a process or a form, and they've done this before, so they shouldn't be giving you the dumb dog look when you go over there. But we say to wait about 2 weeks once the transfer has been requested from us or the rollover has been submitted by you. And once the funds are here, you're free to go. So you can begin your due diligence as soon as you want to. Those of you who are buying real estate, keep a closing date in mind. That 2-week period sometimes can be longer. Give you an example. We had someone retired, had a teacher savings program and found her investment in July, signed all the documents, opened her account, and went back to do the rollover. And they said, well, I'm sorry, but we only do our rollovers quarterly. So you have to wait till September 30th. And so check with your custodian, your other custodians, particularly those of you in the public sector. Check their timelines to make sure that's compatible, but we'll help you work all that out. So it's that easy. Open the account, fund it, choose your investment. We've got a couple of resources here for you. This is a cool little report. A lot of people say, I don't have much money. What can I do? Well, you don't need a whole lot of money to start self-direction. And this book shows you a number of ways to do it. And if you hold your phone up to the screen, this little QR code should give you the download. And if it doesn't, contact us. We'll be happy to do it. It's at the website, by the way, so you can find it there. But a couple of examples. If you have a modest amount of money and it's enough for a down payment on a property, then you can go get what's called a non-recourse loan and finance the purchase of that property. If you have a small amount of money, but you know other people who have other money or self-directed IRAs, you can pool that money and go after an investment that's bigger than the amount of money that you have. We see this a lot. I mean, I do it with some of my own stuff where I don't have enough in my 401k, no cash or 401k or an IRA, and I'll take that money and put it alongside money I have outside of there, and go into it and do it that way. So this is particularly good if you're just getting started, and you may have relatives in your network who encourage you and believe in you, and most of them will not have a whole lot of money sitting around doing nothing. I mean, you're supposed to have your money working for you. So if you go to Uncle Mick and you say, hey, can I borrow $30,000? He might not have that, but you know what he might have? He might have an old 401k that's just been sitting there from a job he left 10 years ago. And that is more common than more common than you think, for people to have a string of 401ks that they left behind, and then they start rolling them up and putting them to work here in the alternative asset space. So that's a possibility. And there are 18 others in that booklet. So go ahead and take a look at that. couple of other resources we have. There's a little 5-minute illustrated booklet that tells you what I told you here in 30 minutes in 5 and does a much better job of it, frankly. So, you want to get that as kind of a recap. Also, there is a longer version 101 course at the website. You can take that. It gives you more detail. And we also have a podcast, Road to Financial Freedom. You'll want to check that out too. So I don't see any questions, but one question that does come up is fees. Now, how much does it cost to do this? Well, let's walk through it. If you're opening your account, is $75. There's no cost to bringing money over here from another custodian. We do not charge any maintenance fees on cash, although you will want to put your money to work and not let it sit around. When you purchase an asset, if it's a real estate purchase directly, it's $175. If it's any other type of investment, it's $150. And it's either $10 to send the money via ACH or check, or $30 to send the money via wire. And then for that asset, we have a $300 a year maintenance fee. And for small accounts or for larger accounts with many assets, we have another fee basis. It's called the account value fee basis, but we'll put you on the best fee basis for your account. The important thing to remember here is that typical full service brokerage firms charge between 1% and 2% of your account value a year. I do these fee analyses for clients all the time, and it rarely comes up to more than a half or 3/4 or 1%. So I can get that laid out for you for your particular circumstances if you give us a call. Anyway, that's me. If I'm not here, there's a whole bunch of other people that know a whole lot about this and can help you out and get you started. So I want to thank everybody for their time. I know it's the middle of the day. I hope you were able to eat lunch and enjoy this and got something out of it. And feel free to come next week or the week after if you want to hear it again, because I had to hear it a bunch of times before it sunk through my head. So thanks again.